Hi, welcome to If You Live It. We have a video really where we're going to start breaking down thoughts and have a conversation around step one. What is it? Why is it important? How do we get here? How did I get here? We're going to have other videos that are going to be supporting this, just general conversations about the thoughts, about the book, about me, about this life, about how this whole thing came to be, about why it's being shared. And for the next several months, we're going to be sharing these videos as supportive documents, as supportive information for you to be able to go through the steps yourselves. And it's all leading up to the launch of in-person and online meetings starting in April. It's all leading up to having the book ready for publication, which it is actually right now, but we want to make sure things are free. We want to make sure things are available online. We want there to be no barrier of entry for anybody that's trying to grow closer to God, anybody that desires happiness in their life. And even that phrase, desires happiness, is a funny one. It's not like we're some pseudo New Age wackadoodle group. It's not what this is. This book, this program is rooted in spiritual truths. It's rooted in religious truths. It's rooted in religious figures. It's rooted in my adherence to loving this particular person that lived on this earth that was the embodiment of love straight from heaven in the form of Jesus. We talk about Krishna. We talk about the Buddha. We talk about Lao Tzu. We talk about truths from all over the world. What we really do here is we show you how to actually live like Christ. Not to talk about the religion, not to convert anybody, I don't care how you feel, what you think, what your relationship with Christianity is whatsoever. That has nothing to do with this. This entire journey, this entire book, all the supporting books that are coming out, all the videos, all the podcasts, everything's shared, the Facebook page, the website, it's all dedicated to being a pathway of freedom from an addiction and an enslavement to the ego, the mind. And it's all designed to give you an opportunity, a workable pathway to be able to transcend your fears, your attachments, your beliefs, your opinions, all for the goal of experiencing, witnessing, observing God imminent, in and around you all the time. And that's happiness. Not this is how you get something or this is how you achieve something. That's not this. If You Live It is a pathway for transcending humanness, addiction, enslavement to things. And when we think about step one, transcending the forces of shame and guilt, and when we think about moving forward into step two and so on and so forth for the next several months, by the end of January, February, March, we will have all steps up in chapter form in all these different formats, from podcast to YouTube to the book to you name it. Sharing tidbits every day. Also, we're doing a thing called deliberate devotion, which are a truth and a prayer every day from around the world. The truths are gathered from. And you'll see names from Dave Grohl to Mark Wahlberg that we've already shared, to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, to Byron Katie, to you name it. Richard Nixon's in there. I mean, there's all kinds, because the reality is, just like If You Live It, truth is not singular in one place at one time for one group. Truth, if it is actual truth, is universal. Now, what I've come to find out is there are varying degrees of truth, and as we dive into the book, we really go into that. And we see these varying degrees of truth playing themselves out in the scale of consciousness, and we use that as a shorthand. And there's all these things that have been used and have been presented and given to me as an opportunity to grow closer to God in this life that I'm sharing with you because the pathway is real. It works. The whole hashtag Get Busy Living, that I didn't create that, but that just came also as a literally to encapsulate what this thing is. Dive into it, explore it. Where are you in life? Are you tired? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired, as they like to say in the AA groups? Are you beaten down? Are you dismayed by religion? Are you excited by your religion? Do you know God personally? Have you ever been in a moment in time where everything surrounding you is such immense love that you can point to it in such a way that I've experienced God firsthand, at least an aspect of God? Do you have things that have happened to you that are, you can't even barely explain them, But what you really know is that something just happened that seems miraculous. Do you have miracles in your life? Do you want miracles in your life? Do you want a life that is actually worth living, which is another book that's coming out. So we have If You Live It, which is going to be dedicated solely to this pathway of freedom, using the 12 steps and spiritual principles and religious truths from around the world to grow closer to God so we can all have our own experience of God imminent. Then we have Deliberate Devotion, which is the daily contemplational, we call it. And then A Life Worth Living is a actual fiction book about a man's journey for truth, human's journey for truth. And then there's other books coming too, but those three have been written. Those three are ready to be published. They'll be coming out over the course of this year. They'll be coming out through Fig Tree Publishing, which is basically an arm of all of this work. So let's dive back into step one. How and why is it important? Any journey starts with a single first step, right? That's obvious. That's cliche. That's something that we could all talk about. Step one in this program is admitting powerlessness over something. And what are we admitting a powerlessness over? The ego, the mind, which are the same things. And you may be saying, Mason, I'm not powerless over my ego, over my mind. Yeah, you are. Let me tell you why. Can you stop thoughts from arising? Can you stop fears, resentment, anger? Can you forgive the snap of a finger and never think about it again? Can you let go of your attachments and your aversions, worries? Do you think you're your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions? These are all byproducts of what we say is humanness. They're the things we take on when we take on a physical body. And don't forget, we are not a physical body having a spiritual experience. It's quite the opposite around. We are the spiritual being that inhabits this body for the opportunity of humanness. We all have an ego problem until you have the opportunity to reach a point where the mind has been transcended, where you're no longer operating from a place of thinking your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. You know you're something else, and you're operating as something else entirely. And that's when you first start having these experiences of God as imminent, as just this knowingness that's there that wasn't there before. This knowing that the world isn't what you thought it was or what people think it is. It's not this endless babble, this content machine. It's not the news, the 24-hour cycle of despair, of feeding us fear in all these different directions. That's the content machine. That's the ego. That's the mind. It's the job of this world. It's the goal of this world, of the ego and the mind, to seemingly keep us separate from the knowingness that, in fact, what we are is God. Now, in the totality of the Creator, the infinite nature of that which is the sponsor of all things, we are not that. We are likened to a locality with the opportunity to re-experience the fact that, in fact, where we come from is God, what we are is God, what everything is around us is God. Now, we dive into this into the book, but when we think about step one, when we think about chapter one, we think about being powerless over the ego. What that means is we admit that we can't stop these fears from arising. We can't stop being emotional and reacting. We can't stop attaching to things and having beliefs and opinions. And oh my gosh, the amount of opinions we all have about everything. Especially in America, especially at this time, especially post-election, pre-inauguration, the opinions are maddening. They don't have to be. The attachments to everything we put it on, to the belief that what will make us happy is outside of ourselves, that is a byproduct of the ego, that's a byproduct of the mind. There are wonderful things about some of the higher levels of the ego when we get into the intellect and when we start seeing the ways that science is used and we start seeing the way that philosophy and the best of religion is experienced and put out into the world. When we start seeing how physics really works and we start seeing the mind in this wonderful way of articulating the physicality of all that's around us and trying to wrap our minds around it and grapple with it and understand it. The mind has this miraculous capacity to take in data and then to process it and then to catalog it and categorize it and spit it back out in all these unbelievable ways that the world in many ways hasn't even got to experience yet with this new advent of AI that's coming into things. But you're not the mind. You're not your thoughts. You're not your feelings. You're not your emotions. Now, a big part of my life is teaching people how to regulate and self-regulate and co-regulate. And it's about diving into the brain and brain health and fitness and neurodiversion and, I mean, just this whole world of really exciting things that I find exciting with regards to what piques the interest of this particular persona and intellect around the physical world around us. But I get to look at it as the fact of, almost like a mechanic, is what are the mechanisms of being human and how exciting they are, but how limited they actually are once you experience the presence of God as a regular, subjective, all the time thing. And that's what life is today. It wasn't always like that. As a matter of fact, I am quite honest and open and explicit within the book of If You Live It, which is this culmination of a life that has been devoted to finding truth in every single aspect of life, from the low down, dirtiest places to regular now, subjective experience and witness of God present everywhere. Step one, we're powerless over the ego. And up until this point, our life has been run by it, has been managed by it. The truth is, you never find happiness, lasting joy, satisfaction outside of yourself. You don't find it in the next car, in the spouse, even in the child. Definitely not the watches and the shoes and the clothes, the homes, the vacations. There can be nice respites, there can be moments of joy there can be appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness for these things. But they're not where happiness resides. They're not where the experience, the witnessable observation of God resides. That's within, that's inside. If You Live It could have just naturally been called a discovery of the self within. As we watch the unfoldment of the world without, be nothing but the perception that comes from us as to how we even define those things that are outside of us. This thing of being a human is a magical gift. And if we don't see the fact that it's also a gift because it's the opportunity to transcend it, then we miss why we're here. We miss the greatest opportunity of all, which is not having to come back here. So step one is all about realizing that, in fact, we don't have control over the mind. We don't have control over thoughts, feelings, emotions. We don't have control over worry and anxiety and fears. We don't have control over depressive moments. We don't have control over these things from arising. What we do have the ability to do is see them and learn how to surrender our attachment to them, surrender our aversion to them, surrender our desire to hide from them. We have the ability to let go of the energy that they bring into our lives and to let go of believing we are these things. And the magic starts happening after you've worked the first step and the second and the third, and you get to the place where you realize the first three steps are a pathway in and of themselves, a blueprint for how to surrender. So many times in my life, up until years ago, you hear let go, surrender, all these spiritual terms and principles, and people say them and regurgitate them, and they're all over the place, but they don't actually tell you how to do it. They don't actually say what's undergirding them. There's very few people in this world that have ever even had an experience of God to the degree that they know what's around them is not real, let alone the same person able to articulate how to get to that point, not from a near-death experience or from some moment in time that was completely out of any type of logical progression. If You Live It, A Pathway to Freedom, Step 1, Chapter 1, is your first chance to start diving into, for free, what it means to actually surrender over our attachments and our aversions. Because we have to see the mind for what it is to start this process. I'm so happy you're watching this video. I can't wait to see how this whole project evolves over time and grows and changes, and to hear people's stories of transformation, of transcendence. These things are real. They're not fake. My role is as a teacher, as of someone who's been there and shares the story for you of how to get there. I care not if you follow me or follow this, or if this is even right for you right now. But if you're looking for something that can jumpstart or charge up or put you in a place where a truly spiritual life is something that can be pronounced for you, this is a pathway. And I dare you to find another one that has the capacity in any way whatsoever to take you down it, where you learn how to surrender, you learn how to forgive, and you reach a state of real gratitude. If you find it, let me know, because I've scoured the earth. This is realizable, real, factual, firsthand experience that's coming at you. If you live it, the book was also more like a gift I was given to share with the world. And the story of the book in its entirety is too long for this particular episode. But what I can tell you is I was nothing but a channel for it. I was nothing but a vessel for it. And this life, all the ups and downs and question marks along the way of why things had to happen a particular way and how they have to happen moving forward, all led to the opportunity to be here right now speaking to you from a place of fact, a firsthand experienceable, witnessing, observable truth of what's shared with you. Not telling you someone else's story, not telling you what I hope to be true, but telling you that if you start in this journey and you start with step one and you move through this and we move through this together, and you can see in this step, the biggest thing to understand is that we have a mind, but we're not the mind. And in that can be your logical jump off point to finishing the step and moving into step two.